Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Bank Marketing Show. We're glad to have you with us today. I am Chris Bates, one half of the hosting team.
Yes, and I'm the other third of the hosting team. No, half. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm Dan DeMalis. Good to have you all with us today.
It depends on the day, doesn't it, Dan?
Yes.
Yeah.
How much coffee I've had.
That's right. Yeah, we're a good offset to each other. Well, folks, we're glad to have you with us today. This is going to be a cool topic. Dan and I were talking about as we set this up, and so every community bank that our agencies has worked with and works with over the years. So we're talking about, I don't know what that total is, Dan, but many dozens of community banks between our agencies over the years. A lot of you have probably fairly recently, within recent years or months, opened a new branch or office, or you're thinking about or planning it, or maybe even you're midstream with it, because it was interesting to me, Dan, that you looked into it a little bit, and, banks are still opening branches.
Yeah.
And
you see these stats of bank consolidation and hundreds of banks, merging or closing or, being acquired, yet a lot of them are opening new branches, right? There's just I don't know if it's a dichotomy is the right word, but there's a lot of the banks that there's been a ton of consolidation over the past couple decades, but the banks that are out there, right, want to remain independent. And, to remain independent, you need to grow. And, to grow, there's a lot of ways to do it, but one way is to open a new branch. I think what we're talking about today here is like moving into kind of the type of branch openings that are moving into a brand new market. So maybe you're in
a new market
in some smaller towns and, you're close to a bigger metro area and you want to move into that. So we're really kind of focused on that. But I think some of the stuff we're talking about can apply to expanding in an existing market too. But vast majority of the time we're working with banks that are trying to move into a new area. Yeah,
Dan, this is always kind of evolving because we're working with almost 70 community banks. At any given time, we probably have at least 2 or 3 of our clients that also may have a competitor that is leaving one of their markets. So they want to jump on, increased opportunity and growing market share, where hopefully there's more room for market share growth. So yeah, some of what we're going to talk about may be applicable to that as well, but most of it is framed around, moving into new markets or expanding into a suburban area, in a bigger market. Well, that may have a zip code that's only 1 or 2 zip codes away, but it's still a pretty new market, right? So yeah. So I think we see a lot of this happening. So wanted to have some conversation around this today, and really, Dan, framing this up is what needs to happen in preparation, and then some with opening, and then how do you carry forward correctly and well from a marketing perspective to get the most ROI on a new branch and a new market. That's the point.
Yeah. And we get a lot of questions around, hey, we've set our opening date, but what do we do? How early do we start marketing? What do we do around the opening itself? What do we do after? How long does that continue? So we wanted today to march through kind of the best practices that we've seen in the market, the things that we've done with the banks that we work with for each of those 3 kind of, segments of the open.
Yeah. Well, Dan, one of the things that you and I have conversed about around this is that we know that banks have done their research. This is not a flippant decision, to go into a new market, open a new branch, those types of things. Different scenarios happen. It's an expansion. Typically, maybe there's an LPO, that is in existence there, or you've got a really dynamic lender that you're hiring away from another, another competitor that's already in this new community, or some mixture of something. You don't just decide one day, hey, let's go full retail in this new market and just go, build a new building.
Yeah. And I see a lot of, that's an important distinction too, is like brand new brick and mortar building that didn't exist before. I've also worked with a few banks that, and when you mentioned earlier, a competitor leaving, And I've worked with a few banks. They're like, well, that competitor closed this branch. We're going to lease the branch.
Yeah.
We're going to rebrand it, put our signage up, but there's already a sort of a bank building there. People are used to, the community's used to there being a bank there.
Yep.
We're going to just sort of move into that. So, we're talking about moving into a new community for your bank. But there's a lot of different ways I've seen banks do it. And that can either be really expensive, literally brand new bricks, or just leasing an existing space that might only be it'd be a month to month kind of thing.
Yeah.
But either way, it's a new community for you. So I think the point is that when the bank has made the decision to do that, you've made the business decision to move in there, and now it becomes a marketing problem to let the community know you're there.
There you are. Now you're into the meat of it. Dan,
your the exec team has said, this is a good location for a branch, but then it's like, right, then what do we say? Now that we're here, what do we say?
Mm-hmm.
How do we talk about it? How do we push our brand into into this new area?
Well, and Dan, so in that process that you just described, at that point, you, the bank, will have done demographic data research, household income. You didn't just pick a spot on a map and buy a building or build a building or do whatever it is that you're doing there. That's not how it works. You've worked with vendors, you've worked with commercial realtors, you've done all of those things. And so, Dan, where you and I come in with that is, have you done the marketing roadmap specific for that market that is competitor analysis, right? That is, and you can speak into this, Dan, that is, specific elements of a marketing and competitive analysis roadmap. And I know that you and I provide this as a service, not trying to sell here, but you and I do this as a service to help lay the groundwork for, banks moving in on the marketing side to do exactly what you just said. Which is they've done all those other things. Now, how are we going to get it on the map from a marketing standpoint? Brand, growth of market share, on and on and on. And how do we do that? So, and there's some different components of that analysis and roadmap even that are important, Dan.
Yeah. I think, right. It's not just putting up a banner on the side of the road in front of the branch saying we're open.
Yeah.
You got to understand who you're trying to. I mean, we say this, if you've listened to the show, like we say this all the time, you got to understand who you're trying to reach. Why did the branch open there? Right. What are those demographics that you're trying to reach? And like, what is the message that will resonate with them? What is the problem that you can solve for them now that you're in, why does you opening the branch matter for them?
Yeah.
You're talking about like competition. It's what are your competitors saying to that same market, and what are they not saying? And what kind of message can you come in and say in between? Are your competitors' messages very, generic, the trusted and local stuff? Is it very like we're a better? And I see a lot of like we are a better bank, or we'll do banking better, or that type of stuff. Where it's just like that doesn't really say what it is that you're doing. If your competitors are talking like that, it creates an opportunity for you to say like specifically what you do. So I think it's, if we kind of get into like the first sort of segment, like what are you doing before this branch opens? It's starting to push that message out. So you need to understand what your message to the market, the part of the market you want to reach is. And it's not just, hey, we're here. If you're nearby, we're your bank now. You got to still solve the problem.
I think the tendency there is what you're talking about is doing more than just pure awareness. So, is that, well, and let's talk about time frame first too, Dan. What is that? You and I have looked at this and done this for a lot of banks. And I think 10, 12 weeks is an absolute minimum for starting to do what you're describing. First, you refine that messaging, speaking into your key audiences in this new market. And then it's time frame, and that doesn't start 3 weeks out before the doors open. When you're you're about to get your CO, your certificate of occupancy from your contractor, that's not when you start marketing. You start marketing way before that. And so that's important. And then while you're making marketing efforts, I like your point, Dan, which is it's really pure awareness is just kind of getting the logo out there or a tagline. Well, if you're making marketing efforts anyway, and some of the channels that we're going to talk about, the digital channels, traditional channels, all these things and how to get it out there, do it with that right messaging that you've determined in your roadmap related to a competitor analysis. So you're speaking into things that are going to give you real value and return on that messaging when you do open the door.
So that's the foundation, right? Is just that messaging, and then everything else. And we're going to talk through here a couple tactics, right? But everything else is just based on that messaging and getting it out in different places. So 10, 12 weeks before the opening day, you're going to want to start some digital awareness. Get the logo out there, especially if it's in a brand new market for you. You're not worried about conversions yet because your branch isn't open. You're not worried about people coming in yet. It's just, let's get the logo out in front of people. Let's get that tagline of why you're there out in front of people. And you can start doing the other digital stuff of your Google profile, your landing page, add the location to your website and say opening, whatever the opening date is. That sort of foundational stuff you can do 3 months out.
Yeah.
Start to let people know it's coming.
It's such a great time to, I'll just say it this way, but utilize the rumor mill, in a good way, because people are curious and your physical presence that you're sitting here working on, people in the neighboring area or businesses down the street or what, hey, have you seen, what's so-and-so, they've got a coming soon sign out front, and all that. And then, and then some digital awareness. So you're running programmatic display ads. So, you're popping up on that and all the digital setups like you just mentioned, so that with Google and the AI engines and all that kind of stuff, you're starting to set your foundation there as well. Because and again, I mean this in a positive sense, but as the rumor mill is going, hey, so-and-so's opening, who is that new thing that's opening? Let's take advantage of that curiosity and that word of mouth and reinforcing that and starting early enough to do in that. And I agree with you, Dan. Digital is the first and most sensible, and we can do it compliantly by targeting radius area of your new branch address, and getting in there and creating that awareness you're talking about.
Yeah.
So get on people's phones and screens.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. Digital ads, start thinking about, get it on your website, get it on Google Business, My Business, think about some SEO. If you're already doing Google ads, you can start to sort of, bid in that local area if you want early. You're just getting you're getting the word out there and warming up the market so that when you do open, your messages can shift to now open and come on in and, we'll help you switch, that type of stuff. You don't want to be trying to do that work while introducing people to your brand.
Yep.
So spend the 2-3 months before the opening introducing people to the brand.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, and there's also, that's the digital side. A lot of banks, like to do the on the ground stuff, and you're probably already doing a lot of the community stuff of chambers of commerce, and you probably are moving into this area because you already have some customers, right? That's usually what I see is well, we've got $2 million in deposits, in a core deposit base in this market. So we decided to move into there because we know there's something going on, something like that. So you've got some local connections. So think through, what are those local connections? How can you leverage them, right? Do you, who do you know locally? What well-known businesses do you already work with? Your business development team is probably already working the referral, networking kind of piece of that. But from a marketing standpoint, it's are there local bakeries that are very popular? Are there, what are those local connections that can help you can help promote them, they can help promote you.
Yeah. Or maybe a nonprofit that you're already supporting in one or more of your other markets also has a presence in this
Yep.
new market. So you can jump in and partner with a nonprofit and lift up their mission, and those types of things. And, Dan, as you know, my team does a lot of social media work with our clients as well. So these things that we're talking about can create organic social media presence and tag some meta ads and those types of things, or LinkedIn and, those types of things in with it. So again, we're talking in digital spectrums here, but from a social media perspective, you've joined the chamber doing these local things, starting to become involved in the community while construction is still, underway, can create some of that content that is, or if you have a community news section on your website, so it's doing all the things that you're saying, Dan, and utilize that for your marketing presence, as well. So I think those are key and important. And another one that I'll mention, it's really interesting to me looking at an ABA, an American Bankers Association, recent study that over the last 2 years, when it looks at the primarily used marketing platforms and tactics for community banks, about 5 of the top 6 are all digital. Right. So, we know and understand that. I mean, targeted digital ads, SEO, and GEO and social and email and all these things that are all digital spectrums. But the most interesting is that right behind that is direct mail. So not to throw the baby out with the bathwater on the traditional side, too, that maybe you run some direct mail, in areas around your branch. And then a couple of notches right below that is still outdoor, so. Having a billboard or two right in that area to do that key messaging that you're talking about still has significant value.
Yeah, I think the on the ground traditional stuff like this, a new branch opening is one area where it does make sense, because you're establishing a physical branch, a physical presence in an area, and so handing out, or being physically present around that helps a lot.
Yep.
Yeah, direct mail, like simple postcards, door hang tags, those types of things. Direct mail gets expensive. So you want to make sure it's very targeted.
Yes.
But it can really work for a branch opening. People take notice of it, know that you're there. It may still take a digital ad later to make them actually open the account or go to your website.
Yeah.
But it's a physical kind of reminder, and I didn't know they were opening right down the street.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll just kind of make them take notice the next time they drive by the branch.
Yeah.
And to your point, like billboard does the same thing, but it's another kind of physical sign where you are, right? A billboard that we sort of diss billboards on here a lot, and say, like, if you just put up a billboard, this is like, come on in and open an account. I don't know how much that's really working.
Right.
But a billboard that's like, we are now open across from the grocery store you go to every week. That type of thing can have an impact.
Yeah. Or something that speaks into your brand's personality. There's even opportunity for that as well. So, Dan, rolling forward then is the actual opening.
Yeah.
And you and I talked about this some, that this is not the new, local vice president rolling his barbecue into the parking lot and cooking some hot dogs, and not much more than that. Now, that might be a cool part of a grand opening or a grand opening event or process. But so, Dan, talk a little bit about your thoughts about leveraging, an actual grand opening.
Yeah, I mean, for the same reason that a direct mail or a billboard, the physical presence of those makes you take notice. If you're doing a grand opening, having some sort of physical attention-grabbing thing for that grand opening can work really well.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of banks lean on, let's have an open house. But you're saying, like, a lot of it just ends up being somebody comes in, we're grilling some burgers in the parking lot, and there's some balloons or a popcorn machine or a shred day. And those types of things celebrate the bank. I think I don't know how well those work, right? I tend to hear, like, well, it didn't get attended all that well. And, some people stop by, but it was mostly existing customers. Where I've seen this work really well is if your branch is in a high, high traffic kind of corner. It's really in a community and not just like in the parking lot of a big box store or something. Having a real community event tied to your open house can work. And what I mean by that is, do you have a barbecue restaurant that's a customer? Do they, do you have a food truck that's a customer?
There you go. Partnerships.
Yeah, like can you make it a little local art fair or local craft fair and bring in some local jewelry makers and that type of stuff? Like your community probably has these types of events a few times a year. And so can you just put one on at your bank and give your customers a chance to promote themselves, give non-customers who have small businesses a chance to promote themselves, because that could win you some customers, right? Creating a lot of goodwill with it. Is there something you can put together, knowing that's special to you, knowing what knowing who your customers are, knowing something specific about your local branch and why you're opening there?
Yeah, right. And are you mentioned, earlier the chambers and all of those kind of things, and pulling that in for legit ribbon cutting to start the day or end the day or something like that. And the mayor, local council and supervisors, I mean, pulling these people in, and sometimes you're pulling people in that will pull in other people. And doing that well.
The bigger point too, right, is like the general community members are not going to attend a ribbon cutting, right? The chamber will, and like maybe some chamber members, and you want to like attract those, but like the general community itself is not going to attend something that's just the ribbon cutting, right? They're going to attend something like the way you should be thinking about this is it an event that you would personally go to if it just happened in your community? That's what you want to plan, and then you put a ribbon cutting at the front of it to make it more exciting, make it more authoritative, because the mayor is there,
and get a little press from it. But that's not just it. Yeah,
it's got to be the party that people will want to attend, not just the ribbon cutting.
Dan,
right?
I've seen a couple of our clients at two of them that come to mind in totally different states that found kind of a popular local band. And do that. Give a reason for families to come out. Those types of things. And I mentioned this earlier, but partnering with a nonprofit, so maybe they're doing something and you're kind of giving a nonprofit a basis opportunity to raise some money, or, a shelter that's helping adopt a pet or so. I don't know. There's so many different things that you could do that actually are engagement, opportunity, community, partnering, those types of things. Kind of having a...
Well, picture an open house that's an open house, and there's a ribbon cutting, and there's like a big inflatable bounce house for kids. There's a barbecue. There's an adopt a pet thing. There's some local artists, like that type of thing, right? And crowd, mold that to whatever that means for your community and your customers in your area. But it's probably easier than you think to put something like that together. It's a lot of work. But there are always local businesses that they're looking for opportunities like that. And the more that you can do that, then what's going to happen is all those local businesses are going to promote their appearance on their social media. It's going to amplify this message. It's going to be very visible as you drive by it. And you're going to get people to stop by and see what's going on. If it's just like somebody in the parking lot with a grill and some burgers, that's not going to be compelling enough for people to stop by.
That's right.
If there's 5 or 10 canopies and a bounce house, it's going to be like, oh, well, we've got some time this afternoon. That's a nice day. Let's go. Yeah. Let's go stop by. That's what we're trying to kind of create. And this is not so much following a pattern or a checklist, but it's like really think about organically what this would be for your community. And then the bank is open, and then you can collect customer information, start a mailing list. You can do all the normal things from that, but you got to give them a reason to really appear.
We a client, a bank client we had in common, Dan. We went to their big rebrand opening several years ago, and they had fire chief, police chief, all these others and all that. But the other thing that they really did well is they had the lender that was in that, or a couple lenders that were in that community, specifically and personally invite every customer and some of their potential customers that they wanted to come by and, hey, meet our CEO. Give them a reason to come and all, besides the free hot dog and all that. That's great. But, it's doing those personal connection things and leveraging the opportunity, which is hugely important. And then, Dan, to kind of move into our next segment here is talking about what happens after the doors open. You and I have both seen the error of, okay, wow, we're open now. We did this. We did all these marketing things. We made noise, and now we really need to watch our budget and let's just kind of not,
Right.
let's not keep worry about continuing to run those digital ads and all that kind of stuff. It's kind of we've opened the mousetrap now. We built a better mousetrap and we opened the doors, so now they'll start coming.
Yeah. And just the main thing after you open is it's still going to take people months to pull the trigger. Right? They may be annoyed at their current bank. They may be interested in moving to you, but it's a lot of work for them.
Mm-hmm.
It still could take them months. And, it's like, I don't have time right now. They're never really going to have time. So how do you make it easy? How can you follow up personally with people that were at the event? Keep showing up in their inboxes and on digital ads in front of them, and keep reminding them you're there, and then tie it to something that just makes it easy for them to start.
Yeah. Dan, community bankers and community banks, we all live in this industry that relationship is the backbone. And I agree with that. That's legit. That's real. That's all of that. My wife and I have experienced it personally when we moved from a regional bank to a community bank here, and the community bank that my agency does business with, and all of that. I mean, the relationships that are there, that is the backbone. And we help our clients promote that all the time. So what we're talking about in this new market, new branch scenario here that I relate it to is like a human moves to a new town. Okay. So if my wife and I pick up and we move to, a new town, the establishment of our, who we are, what we're involved in, all of that is never more important than the first few weeks or months. Right. So it's, personally, it's what are we plugging into? What organizations, our kids' schools, our church, our this, our that, what we're involved with, or sports, or whatever it is. So for a bank, it's, while you're being talked about, because you've got a new presence.
Yep.
There's no better time to, in keeping with your brand messaging of the persona of the bank, than to live that out. And tell that story through your local marketing, obviously. So in other words, you've got some momentum. You're being talked about a little bit or a lot. So keeping that momentum going and supporting that through digital and all the marketing, and starting to do things, Dan, like building reviews. So you've got a new Google business profile with your new brand. Start building reviews. So that your SEO is working well, and, doing things that are FAQs on your website that are, if possible, kind of specific to that community, so that AI engines are starting to go, oh, this is this bank is the answer to these sets of pain points, or questions that customers are asking on ChatGPT or Claude or whatever, So doing these things and kind of hit the gas while you've got it, right? Is just enormously important.
Yeah, exactly. So keep your digital, keep your digital ads going. Look for ways to have the personal touch, right? Like ask, I'm working with one bank now, like they're opening a new branch. They already have a decent amount of customers that bank with them at a further away branch and that are very excited that they're opening in this local town. So get Google reviews, get, video testimonials, send those out to your, the mailing list you created at the open house, that type of stuff.
Yeah.
And, very human, very very, very high touch, very selling the brand message that you came up with before, the problems that we said earlier in this episode, the problems that you're coming to that market to solve.
Yeah. And social media content, that's very local, just leveraging all of those opportunities. So, okay. Dan, I feel like, what we've talked about today are things that maybe you and I think should be obvious, but for banks that are into new markets, opening new branches, they've got so many things going on: construction, hiring, obviously finding new business, and loans and deposit accounts, and to start substantiating all this investment. And there's so many things that marketing can almost be a kind of an oh yeah kind of thing.
There's kind of like that, if you build it, they will come sort of mentality sometimes. You just need to put the branch, and then we'll win some business, and you'll win some. But these days, you've got to keep hammering at it, keep those digital ads going, keep the reviews coming, keep the pulse on the community.
Yep.
And, to really for months, because it takes people months to do this stuff.
Yeah.
To actually switch. And you may just get a bunch of opens, but not much deposit. And you've got to keep working at them to win the deposits over time. And that's probably a good idea for another episode of the show is that ongoing kind of strategy. But I think the main point is the grand opening of a new branch is the start. It's not the end of winning the market. It's
the gun went off. Time to start running the race. That's right.
That's when the work really needs to start.
Yeah. Well, so we've talked today about, layering digital tactics with traditional. We've talked about the time frame and getting started early enough to create that momentum. We've talked about the local connections and partnerships and involvements and all of those kind of things. And if any of this sounds, as you're listening to this, like, oh, well, that's kind of obvious, Dan and I are speaking through experience here that there are a lot of these things that get missed and are crucial, in this investment of time, place, and people that you're doing in a new market and a new branch. It's so important. And Dan, other things we talked about, like putting the real faces of your new people, in your marketing. That is a local identifier, and kind of growing the roots in that community by lifting up your people that are in that new location. So, yep,
yeah,
some good stuff here.
Yeah, don't just move into the town and then not meet your neighbors. That's
that's
the
right.
End of the day.
That's right.
Yeah, and so we've done this, for a bunch of different banks. If you, as always, we are, here for this community. And if you are facing a branch opening and want some ideas, want to bounce something off us, feel free to email us at contact@bankmarketingshow.com, or you can come to the website bankmarketingshow.com and find it there too. Yeah, but we're happy to trade ideas, happy to share some tips.
Yep, and or want to talk about and look at what a new market, competitive analysis and roadmap looks like, and talk about that and how crucial and important that can be for your success. So, Dan and I are always here to ping ideas off of, share best practices, those types of things. So I'm glad you put that invite out there.
Yeah, we're starting to do a lot of these little projects of just competitive analysis, give you some ideas for messaging, give you some ideas for, what sort of part of the brand the brand space to occupy, especially around a branch opening. So happy to be a sounding board for anyone out there kind of looking at this.
Great. Well, folks, if you haven't yet, please take an extra second and subscribe to the show, or even on a lot of the channels, Spotify and others, you can leave a review now. Those are things that help us to continue to be a resource to this industry. And hey, we appreciate you. A good ways into our fourth year now, Dan. We're excited about how the show is continuing to grow, and that's all because of you guys. We appreciate all of you as our listeners.
Yep, definitely.
All right, on to the next one, Dan.
Yes.
Great. Thanks a lot for listening today, everybody.
Yeah, we'll see you down the road.
Thanks for joining us. To go deeper or get access to some of the valuable nuggets from today's show, go to bankmarketingshow.com. There you'll find episodes, links to resources, and much more. Be sure to subscribe wherever you find your podcasts. And join us next time.